The first band I produced, the first major label band I produced was back in 2000, this band Primer 55. And that, we ended up, finding a band that was unsigned and then making a whole record for them, and then shopping the record to a major label record deal, and then they signed them, and then, it was just a whole process of that. World Fire Brigade was a different thing. I got together with a couple of my friends, and we decided that we were gonna put together a band just for licensing, just because we thought it'd be more interesting to make a record but not put it out as a record. So that's what we did, and it did pretty well. It's a pretty cool record. Well, I started playing piano, but what's really funny is I like playing piano and keyboards, but all the bands I listened to were like Black Sabbath and Iron Maiden and stuff, and they didn't have a keyboard player. So it's like, well, I want to play like Black Sabbath stuff, so I better learn how to play guitar and bass and stuff like that. So that's when I started playing guitar, and I started, playing other stuff other than piano. But then like I get into like Yes and ELP, and I was like, oh, keyboards are cool. So then I started, playing keyboards a little bit more too. So I've always sort of played everything, but still piano is my main instrument. Well, I mean, most of my stuff I do in the box, just because I have crazy deadlines and I have to come through and I have to recreate stuff, and sometimes they ask me to do recalls and stuff that I did a long time ago. But I always have a chain, especially with vocals. I always record vocals, through a mic into a regular preamp, into a compressor. With guitars, a lot of times I'm using, Bias or Kemper or Axe Effects, and trying to not mic up a guitar amp if I don't have to, just because that's another recall, nightmare. I mean, for bands, whenever I produce bands, I'm still recording live drum sets, and still don't use live guitar amps that much anymore, just because it's so much easier and I have so many cool sounds and all my stuff. But for production music, it's a lot easier to just keep everything inside the box. Wow, that's a hard one. I've had some pretty crazy deadlines. I was scoring this water bottle in China, this product called Galulu. So we're trying to do the VOs for all of that stuff while I'm doing the rebrand. But what was good is that since this one company's in China, we do all the voiceovers and all the stuff, send it out to them while they were sleeping, and then when they wake up, I'd be done with all the deliverables for the station. It was a little hectic, but I mean, I get crazy stuff like that all the time. I mean, people call you up at 11, 12 o'clock at night and say, dude, if you could just take that ding, ding, ding out of the track, tomorrow we'll go right on, CBS football. So it's like, okay, Well, I've been using Digital Performer since it was Audio Desk. I've been using Digital Performer for like maybe 20 years already. So I'm pretty used to it. I use a lot of the East-West stuff for strings and orchestral stuff. I really like that. I always go to that. I go to a lot of my Universal stuff. I use a pretty big variety, but like I already have so many presets made in the Universal Audio plugins that if I have like a drum set, I know that I can just go to all the presets that I've made on the SSL stuff and just knock it all out. I have channels that I've created, through Universal Audio and Slate, and just sort of created my own different things. There's a lot of good plugins out there. Well, virtual instruments, I mean, I use everything. I use this company V-Metal. They make a really good guitar simulator when I don't feel like picking up a guitar. The Promeny stuff, they make V-Metal. They make a bass, 5-string bass thing I use a lot. I use Sylenth a lot. I use Omnisphere all the time. I use Trillion. God, there's so many of them. I use Serum. I use, now I'm trying to think of them. Well, I've always loved this Focusrite, the 215. That's one of my favorites. I love the UA preamp and the Chandler, and can't get enough distressors. And my buddy Dan Corneff makes this amazing 1176, stereo 1176 that I use all the time. Well, I mean, nowadays, it's like the best time to be in the music business and it's the worst time. It's the best time because you can, you know, write a song or make a video and overnight you can be huge. It's like you don't need distribution, you don't need anything. It's the worst time because record labels are going out of business. So it's you know, it's good and it's bad. To become a producer nowadays, if I was starting all over again, I would find the most amazing band I could possibly find locally and then offer to produce them for free or whatever I had to do to produce them and work out a deal with them that when I made their record, we'd shop it to somebody and I'd be, you know, be producing the actual record. You know, there are still labels looking for bands. As far as being a composer, just compose as much as you can. Just write as many tracks as you can and then try to figure out people at libraries, try to figure out if you know maybe a composer that's already established, that'll co-compose with you, they'll write with you, and they'll bring you in on their projects, but they're gonna wanna hear something. And if you do contact the library and they're like, oh, we'd love to work with you, well, they're gonna wanna hear something. So if you're like, oh, I'll start writing something tomorrow, you're already too late. So if you wanna be a composer, start right now doing whatever you're good at. Don't try to, you know, if you're like a metal guy, you're great at metal, like you might not want to start with orchestral stuff if that's like not your thing. Like get a bunch of metal tracks that you're like amazing at and then like start branching out to different stuff. I mean, for me, I've always gone where the love was. I do a track and people love it, well, do more tracks like that. Rather than do a track and people are like, I don't know, well, then don't do more tracks like that. Just keep moving forward. You know, being out in LA, it's like, it is a constant hustle. It's a constant grind. It's constantly going out, meeting people, trying to, you know, get your work with other composers, trying to meet other people, just trying to stay on top of your craft, trying to stay with the latest plugins, the latest synths, the latest everything, and just trying to rise above all the competition. I mean, there are a lot of people that say, oh, I'd rather stay in my small town someplace because it's not as competitive. Yeah, but then the goals and the rewards aren't as big too. It's like you could stay in a small town someplace, but you know, you reach a certain level out here, there's more competition, but there's more gigs. So it all sort of balances out. Well, so far I've been using it mainly on the master bus, and it's really great because it gives you like a lot of really cool presets to start with. So, you know, I usually just slap on, let's say, I remember there was one called Tape 1, I think. You slap that one on, I'm like, okay, well I need a little bit more of this, a little bit more of that, and it's really great just navigating it. I mean, it's always hard to find a plugin that once you put it on, it just sounds great. Like it already makes your mix sound better, and then you just tweak it out and just make it even better. But I'm really excited to put it on like different actual instruments in, you know, I've only, you know, with the master bus right now, but I'm psyched to just get it with everything on it.